Somewhere in the Thar Desert, before the sun has fully risen, 47 children sit on a cracked cement floor, starting their day. They are reciting the English alphabet. The accents are precise. The rhythm is practiced. But the children have no idea what the words mean. They are copying sentences like, "My name is Ramesh," 12 times over, writing in a language they do not use at home. This infographic maps the scale of India's population, over 1.4 billion people. But only 10 to 12% of Indians speak English with any real fluency. Yet this small group populates the high courts, the tech hubs, and the high-ranking corridors of political power. This mechanical approach to learning is the modern legacy of a 19th century directive. It was designed to function exactly this way. English acts as the primary gatekeeper to professional life in India. It is a system inherited from a departed empire that now dictates which children get to participate in the future. In February 1835, the East India Company operated out of Calcutta, the administrative nerve center of British power. A British civil servant named Thomas Babington Macaulay sat here and wrote a memo that would govern Indian education for the next 2 centuries. Macaulay held total authority over the curriculum, despite never learning Sanskrit or Tamil. His resulting document, the Macaulay Minute on Education, is stark in its arrogance. He wrote that a single shelf of a good European library is worth more than the whole native literature of India and Arabia. Macaulay's goal was to replace Persian with English to produce a specific class of workers. He wanted go-betweens, people who were Indian in blood and color, but English in their opinions, intellect, and tastes. By tying government funding strictly to Western education, he installed a linguistic hierarchy. This created a mental architecture that would remain standing long after the British military left. Decades after independence, the Indian middle class did not discard English. They recognized that the language was a requirement for economic survival in a globalized world. In a society defined by ancient caste structures and regional boundaries, English offered a way out. It became an equalizer that allowed individuals to move between states and social classes with a mobility that local languages often could not provide. When the global economy shifted towards software, India had a massive labor force already thinking in the language of international trade. The information technology boom of the 1990s, which now generates over $190 billion annually, relied on this pre-existing English infrastructure. Today, India is the world's largest English-speaking nation by population. With up to 250 million functional speakers, they outnumber the combined populations of the United Kingdom and the United States. The very instrument designed to manufacture subservient clerks became the tool used to capture global capital. This success carries a significant internal cost. At the Supreme Court of India, the fate of 1 billion people is decided, debated, and documented entirely in English. India's constitution was written in English, with the Hindi version serving as a translation. This means the foundational laws of the nation are effectively unreadable to the majority of its citizens. While English dominates the government, local languages are receding. This map shows 197 Indian languages that are currently endangered. India loses a language approximately every 2 weeks. These dialects are more than just sounds. They are filing systems for local knowledge about medicine, history, and the environment. When the language disappears, that data is lost forever. This creates a condition called linguistic shame, where millions of people feel their native tongue is a sign of lower intelligence. Over 85% of parents now prioritize English schooling, often at the expense of their own cultural history. We can see the impact of this in a small internet cafe in Bihar, where a young man named Suraj is trying to fill out a job application. Suraj is an expert in Indian history. He can explain the intricacies of ancient trade routes and recite complex poetry in Hindi, but he is unable to complete the required cover letter in English. The hiring manager will likely prioritize a candidate with English fluency, making Suraj's deep historical knowledge irrelevant to the process. There is no easy resolution for him. He is competing in a system where the definition of intelligence was narrowed 200 years ago to exclude the language he thinks in. When a nation validates its own citizens through a borrowed vocabulary, the colonial era has not truly ended. It has simply moved inside the mind. For decades, the Indian education system operated on a rigid, inherited assumption. Millions of children entered Class 1 and were immediately met with textbooks and instructions in English, a language they had never used to describe their own lives. This creates a heavy cognitive load. As shown here, when a child learns in their mother tongue, they can focus entirely on the subject. But on the lower track, that same child is forced to decode an unfamiliar grammar while simultaneously trying to grasp the concept of addition or subtraction. It creates a bottleneck that demonstrably slows comprehension. Developmental research shows that when you remove that initial bottleneck, the results are immediate. Children who learn to read in their own language first develop stronger critical thinking skills. And because they aren't struggling to understand the basic mechanics of the classroom, they actually acquire English more efficiently later in their schooling. Prioritizing the mother tongue is a strategy for cognitive security. It ensures that a child's first interaction with formal education is defined by their ability to answer a question, rather than the silence that comes from not understanding the language it was asked in. In 2019, a committee of linguists and educators drafted a document that finally aligned state policy with that developmental science. The National Education Policy of 2020 marked the first comprehensive overhaul of the system in over 3 decades. The directive was specific. Children should be taught in their mother tongue until at least Class 5. This is starting to change the atmosphere in thousands of local schools. Students who used to rely on rote memorization are beginning to engage with foundational math and science with a level of confidence that only comes from using their native voice. With this policy, the state officially acknowledged that a child's existing vocabulary is an asset, not an obstacle to be cleared before real learning can begin. Government directives provide the framework, but for a language to survive, it must move beyond the classroom and into the market. It needs to hold value in the places where people work and find entertainment. In Tamil Nadu, the Kollywood film industry provides a blueprint for this. By producing high-budget cinema that travels to the global diaspora, the Tamil language maintains absolute relevance through cultural export and massive commercial demand. Technology scales this demand. By 2025, non-English digital users in India will exceed 900 million. As the market fractures, native languages become visible to investors. Millions demand content in Bhojpuri, Maithili, and Konkani, making these tongues profitable. To bridge the digital divide, the Budhni project connects IIT researchers with private startups. Together, they're building a vast AI-powered ecosystem designed to provide digital public services in all 22 scheduled Indian languages. This allows a citizen in rural Odisha to access government health or agricultural apps using only native voice commands, bypassing an English-speaking intermediary. Historically, this English barrier locked advanced technical knowledge away from those who didn't attend elite schools. High-level science and engineering degrees were effectively inaccessible unless a student was already fluent in the language of the international research community. National digital platforms are now dismantling that barrier. By using AI-assisted dubbing and human translation, thousands of world-class engineering courses are being made available in regional languages for the first time. While tech looks forward, researchers are in a race to digitize over 5 million ancient manuscripts. These texts, written on palm leaves and paper, contain centuries of indigenous knowledge on everything from architecture to mathematics. Whether through voice recognition AI or the preservation of 500-year-old texts, the objective remains the same, proving that Indian languages are fully capable of carrying the weight of modern technical knowledge. Despite these advances, the friction is immense. Policy changes take years to reach the classroom. AI is often less accurate for smaller dialects. And for many, the economic incentive to prioritize English only continues to grow. The most vulnerable languages are not the regional giants like Hindi or Tamil, but tribal and nomadic tongues. These communities have no massive market scale and no government departments fighting for their survival. To see what is at stake, you have to look toward the Andaman Islands. Only a few elderly speakers of Great Andamanese remain. The language is now functionally extinct. When the last speaker goes, the loss is irreversible. they take with them a 10,000-year-old system for understanding an island ecosystem, a way of reading the sea and the forest that no English word can fully replicate. This is the brutal reality of reclamation. The state can archive word lists and record voices, but once the last speaker of a vulnerable tongue dies, the living, evolving spirit of that language is gone forever. The modern Indian language movement seeks a living balance. It centers on genuine multilingualism, the sophisticated, uniquely Indian ability to exist fluidly across multiple languages simultaneously. Most Indians already live this way. An auto driver in Chennai might switch between Tamil at home, basic Hindi with a tourist, and English at a bank without a second thought. This isn't confusion, it's a high-level cognitive skill. The goal is an education system that provides a child with both the economic utility of English and the deeply human treasure of their mother tongue. Linguistic survival means ensuring that future generations never have to choose between their roots and their future. They can possess both.